As stressful as that match might have been, Leeds United managed to beat Leicester City 1-0 despite facing a lot of late pressure, but having really gotten the tactics right. In this video, I'm going to go through Leeds United's team selection, our tactics and approach to the match, and ultimately why that led to the result that we ended up with. First up, it's important to take a look at the team selection just so you know who was on the pitch and why that was the right choice. So, the main change, the only change, was Archie Gray's return as right back. I personally believe it's just because Jamie Shackleton got injured and couldn't play. I think that Shackleton might have been the better choice for the match itself, given that Archie Gray seemingly at points didn't quite have the experience or the pace to beat the winger that was running at him. Still kept him under wraps almost completely, though, so you can't really complain. Still did the job. Outside of that, the team was fairly consistent. No one else really changed. The only slight changes were in terms of role and positioning and stuff like that. The personnel were completely the same. The biggest adjustments, however, were tactical. Approaching this match, you knew that Daniel Farke had to get the tactics absolutely spot on, because if he didn't, there would be huge threats from all over the pitch that Leicester City would provide. In midfield, Harry Winks has a belter of a long shot on him. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, his through balls are deadly, and Jamie Vardy is Jamie Vardy. Not much more to be said about that. Unless we got the tactics perfect, problems. And I think we did. And that started with getting a lot more aggressively pressing in the first half. The first 6 or 7 minutes were just us being on top of them constantly, making sure that the ball didn't leave their third, basically. Making sure that any passes that they do make have to be the safest possible passes, and they don't cause any sort of threat to us. And I think this was all a big part of trying to make every single situation in the match as transitional as we could. We know that Leeds United are very, very good on the transition this season. That's something that a lot of teams have had to deal with. We have pace in attack, we have Summerville, we have James, and they're more than capable at running at a man whilst keeping a ball under control. Summerville had the odd dodgy touch in this match, sure. We could have had a couple more goals if things worked out a little bit better, but combine that with Rutter's through balling, passing ability, that'll do. I confused those two terms. And João Pirro potentially arriving late and finishing chances like he nearly did very, very early on. And it's the right tactical structure to beat a Leicester side. I think this could be the blueprint for all of the rest of the clubs in the Championship to go, if we trust our team and we've got the quality for this, why don't we just press them as well? Why don't we see if this works? And if it does, then Leicester could be in a lot more trouble. I did a little bit of a look into all the stats and data, and I'm just going to present my screen for a moment. Entire screen 2, bosh. There we go. And that's the wrong tab, so if I go to the correct one, there we go. Having a quick look at all this information. The amount of times they lost possession in their own half was absolutely obscene. They lost possession in their own half 13 times in this match, which is far more than is reasonable in any way for a team that's looking for promotion. And that's all come from us applying pressure constantly and making sure that their goalkeeper, when he makes a pass, has to make the more dangerous one. Because I'm just going to get back to the right tab again, which is there. Whenever their goalkeeper had the ball, we made sure that Pirro was up here, James was up here, Rutter was up here, Summerville was up here, and Kamara was up here. Put a little bit more pressure on throughout the pitch. And in essence, they didn't have a clever outball to play. At best, they'd have a free midfielder here, and Kamara would step up and intercept, or Ampadu would step up and intercept. And the number of times that happened and that they were put under a constant threat because of our nice, intelligent pressing, absolutely insane. And I am so, so happy that Leeds managed that in this match. Also going to have a very, very quick look at the heat maps, because I think a player that is notable beyond anything in this game was Glenn Kamara. If you have a look at Ethan Ampadu's heat map, for example, I'm just going to present that now. That one. He's still fairly deep. That's fine. That's the way that Ampadu plays. He's a sort of defensive midfielder, plays in that more passive role. But then you compare it to the way that Kamara was playing, and he was so aggressive in this match because he became a fundamental part of that press. The pressing unit was absolutely huge in this match. It was the front four, plus Kamara, plus occasionally a fullback, plus maybe Ampadu. And the fact that we've put so much effort into making them work for the ball is something that they won't have had to deal with that much this season, because it's the Championship and a lot of teams will not trust themselves against that. And by trusting ourselves, we've given us the best opportunity to win the match. One thing that I saw throughout that was a little bit of a worry was the potential lack of a clinical edge. Biggest issue for me being Piru's shot early on showed that maybe his finishing isn't quite at it. He's still got a little bit more improvement to do there, which is completely fine because we're getting goals from elsewhere. But in the long term, we need to make sure that Piru is picking up all of those goals. I think another slight issue that we had as well, and I've forgotten to put a banner down for this, so I'm just going to wrap it in here, is the number of times that we had Summerville or Rutter breaking into the box and potentially being able to stay on their feet, but deciding not to and thinking the referee's going to give the penalty. We need to remember that this is not the Premier League anymore. VAR is not going to be our friend because it isn't here. And the referees aren't going to be our friend because they're referees and they don't tend to see fouls very good, despite that being their job. If we want to get those opportunities, we're going to have to fully earn them. We're going to have to try and stay on our feet. We're going to have to try and get the shots off, because the more shots we take, the more goals we'll score. And I don't think we're going to get penalties from most of these situations. Aside from the lack of clinical edge, one of the biggest things that I saw in this match was Ampadu shutting down Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. He did incredibly well. The dog's lost his mind. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall did incredibly well throughout the season so far. He's scored 5, he got 6 assists, and he was the biggest threat to me before the match. Ampadu worked so hard at basically marking him out of the game that Dewsbury-Hall was barely heard on commentary. He didn't do anything. He had their most dangerous opportunity, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But outside of that, he didn't do much, and that is a sign of Ampadu's quality and the fact that we've got a bargain there. Between Ampadu and Kamara, I think we paid something like 13 million quid. Insane signings that you just wouldn't get in the Premier League. After we scored, we made, I think, a conscious decision to let go of control of the match. That was the point at which we decided, let's not let it be transitional anymore. Because once a game is transitional, like it was in the first half, we backed ourselves, which is fair enough, because sure, we can get a goal. But we then thought, okay, transitional moments are some of the most dangerous at both ends of the pitch. If we can eliminate that, fine. If we can make sure there are transitional moments, we'll keep them to us. That meant that our focus was on the defensive structure rather than attacking again. You can tell that by the fact that Gruev came on for Rutter, for example, which showed that we were looking more at the defensive side of things by that point in the game. And not only were we looking at defending well, but we were looking at playing on crowd frustration. The crowd were on the referee's back from the moment we scored. They were desperately wanting a lot of added time, which I still thought was quite high, considering that Leicester kept the ball in play all half and actively thought, if we can keep the ball in play, we can create chances. But we just shithoused it a bit. Archie Gray, when he was about to come off, did the whole, oh, my ribs hurt. What a shame. He might have been injured. Sorry if he was. We had similar stuff from various other players across the pitch. There was one point where a Leicester player had fetched a ball for a goal kick for Meslier, but he'd already made the conscious decision, no, pick up the one on the cone. And that just made the crowd angrier and angrier, and I feel like that's a very, very good thing for us, because an angry crowd is a crowd that isn't supporting its team, that isn't getting behind its side. It's one that is annoyed at its opponents rather than cheering on its own team. And that's really smart. And we also played on player frustration quite a lot as well. There was the point where Summerville was caught in a headlock weirdly by Hamza Chowdhury and just decided to roll with it, gave him a little bit of a shove, was like, no, right, if you're going to give it, I'm going to give it. It's fair. And the referee, fair enough, gave both of them a yellow card, but Summerville achieved what he wanted to. He got under Hamza Chowdhury's skin. He also did that quite a lot by being the guy that is on the break 90% of the time. He was the biggest threat, and him having that little niggle with Hamza Chowdhury happened after Chowdhury's incredible last-ditch challenge on him while Summerville was breaking. But whilst Chowdhury got the best of that encounter, I think with the shoving thing, Summerville got the best of his. And it's all fine. And I think ultimately, as much as we deserved to win, we were saved deeply by Mellier's last-minute reaction stop. Being able to make that save, as someone that plays in net a little bit myself, is something that every goalkeeper dreams of when the ball is half across the goal line and you're just plucking it out from basically behind the post. Spectacular stop, and I think that is going to be our save of the season. And if we do go up, we'll look back on it and go, that was Mellier's moment. Ultimately, what this means for Leeds is we are in a much better position going forwards. I saw people saying that this might be a must-win. Winning it means that the pressure is slightly more on Ipswich. It's not completely on Ipswich at the moment. I'm just going to have a very quick look at the table. Yeah, because we are only 6 points behind Ipswich, which is good. We're closing in on them, but they've got 2 games in hand. So that could, in theory, become 12. I think we'll keep the pressure on. I don't think Ipswich are completely infallible the way that some people do sometimes. And they're easily enough to catch, I think, going forwards. The idea that they won't drop 6 points in like 33 matches is insane. We just have to keep up. We're with a very nice chance of automatic promotion now, and we've put ourselves in the best position possible to force the issue a bit more. Ultimately, let me know what you think. Comment down below what your main moment from the match was. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe. You can even become a channel member. That's hugely appreciated if you do. It's just a couple of quid a month, I think. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you later.